Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. I've got a mixed bag today. Ezra, you always want attention. First of all, it's been cold. Today's the warmest day we've had so far this week, and it's in the low 20s Fahrenheit. Yesterday, it was windy and cold. This is early to mid-January weather for us, coldest of the year. You go in the heated shop. Onward to the question that seems to be on everybody's mind. Hey, you two. Hey, Bill boy. Hey, Brownie. Did Billy get the job done with Bossy Pig? Did they breed? I don't know. We didn't see anything. Sometimes we don't see it. Most times we do. That's all I have to report. He's going to stay in with her for 6 weeks or so, and then we'll put him in with Brownie and see what happens. There's a lot floating around on YouTube about feeding pigs other stuff. Save money, feed them restaurant waste, feed them brewer's grain. If you do that, and I'm not going to do that, you need to be very careful about their diet, because what goes in is what comes out in terms of the quality of pork that you get. So you better be a good dietitian if you're going to start mixing that stuff into their diet. And certainly, if you're in the business of selling pork and keeping a consistent product, means you need a consistent feed and nutrition program to keep your pork consistent batch after batch. So those are just some considerations. Went out again. I am smoking something delicious for dinner tonight, but it only has to smoke for 3 hours, so we'll wait a while before we light this up. I've been thinking, of all the inventions in the last 100 years, the dry erase board has to be the most remarkable. Did you hear about the guy who evaporated?
No.
He'll be missed. This is a fairly large cross stitch. I think there's 13 or 14 pages in the pattern, and I've been working on it for a month or so, and this is what I have done. And during that time, I've mostly completed this page and partially completed this page. Each of these squares is 10 by 10 spaces, and you can see a lot of them have many, many colors in the square. I do a method called cross-country stitching, where you follow a color for a certain amount of time. Usually it's a page or an object for me. There's different methods, parking method. I like cross-country. Cross-stitch is relaxing but incredibly time-consuming, and I think about the efficiency of things a lot and where efficiency applies in our lives and where maybe it shouldn't apply. And this is a good example. I've spent hours and hours and hours and hours doing this. In that same amount of time, sometimes one of those 10 by 10 squares Might take me 3 or 4 hours if it's got a lot of colors in it. If I added up all the hours I put into doing 2 pages, this much cross stitch, in that same amount of time, what else could I have done? I could have stripped that tractor that's out in the garage all the way down, cleaned it up, probably done the repair work, and painted the powertrain. I could have done all that. Instead, I'm doing little cross stitch. And what really blows my mind is that this could be done by a machine in probably a matter of minutes, where it's going to take me hundreds of hours. I tell my daughter that I probably won't finish this till after she's out of college, and she's a senior in high school now. So when does efficiency make sense, and when doesn't it make sense? How do you spend your time? There are certain things that I like that aren't as efficient as they could be, but that's just fine with me. It's all over our farm. There's inefficient processes that I know are inefficient, and we do them because we enjoy doing them. There's something really enjoyable about watching the tank fill and watching the cattle come and get a drink. We'll come get a drink. There's a tank heater. We've been running it for 3 days or so now. Keeps all the ice out of the tank. Oh my gosh, I can't believe he's draining a 100-foot hose. How inefficient. I mentioned it in the video when we set up the watering system for the winter, but I guess some people didn't see that. Hillary and I debated whether to put the heifer stock tank in the barn or not and decided against it. And we've revisited that, but the problem is that the hose and the heater cable would have to be moved when we do hay to feed the heifers and things. And the biggest factor is I just like it out here. I don't mind draining the hose, and I like being outside and watching them out in the yard while I'm filling the tank. Reason enough. Now you want back in. Oh my gosh. I don't mind the cold and being out in it very much. I'd much rather have this weather than a 90-degree day. Yum. Just remember, when you light a stake of charcoal, you have to let it burn clockwise. Won't burn the other way. Unless you live in the southern hemisphere, then you light it to burn counterclockwise. This is one of our beef briskets. I sous vide this brisket prior to smoking it here to finish it for about 30 hours at 135 degrees. If you don't know what sous vide is, it's a water bath cook in a vacuum bag, and it really tenderizes the meat well. Now I'm going to smoke it for 3 hours or so, and then it'll be delicious. Is it warm enough? I don't know. I think it is. This is Purple Power, full strength. There's so much crud on the tractor that I don't think degreaser's going to do much till I take the bulk of that off and then use it for finish cleaning. It's about 2 hours later. Turns out, I think it's too cold to do this, but I got the tractor cleaned off well enough to start doing mechanical work on it. I can't spray it with degreaser and do that step today because it's just too cold. I'll have to pull out again on a warmer day. Yep, it's too cold. Turn the heat in the shop up to 70 degrees and that'll melt it and dry it off in no time. As for me, well, my coat's frozen, my pants are frozen. I gotta get some dry clothes. Hey, how's the meat doing? Ah, yeah. I can't quite feel my lips all the way yet, but they're telling me it's good. It's time to take it off and put it in to rest. It's time for afternoon chores. Bossy Pig. Billy Boy. Brownie. Hey, lady. Howdy, cows. Hi, Orden. How are you? Hey, bud. You guys are getting pretty low on hay. I guess I'll get you some more. Even with as cold as it's been, the cattle drink the water down fast enough in here where I don't need a tank heater. When I fill it back up, all the ice that's in it melts out. Right, buddy? Yes, Ezra, it's cold. Yep. These collars on Quick Connects freeze up if you don't shake them out. They'll be frozen the next time you go to use them. That's what I didn't like about them last time. That and the seals get awful hard on them. I know. When it gets cold out, cattle will really shove the food down. I don't really worry too much about cattle getting stressed by the cold as long as they have a dry place to lay. And Hillary and I bedded this barn real well when the cold spell started. They'll be fine. And I always heard, although I don't know for sure that it's true, but it makes sense, that all the fermentation that happens inside their gut generates a lot of heat, and that helps keep them warm. I worry about cattle more when it gets real hot outside than when it gets real cold. We use hay for bedding, and you may ask yourself, why not straw? Why don't you use straw? That was the traditional bedding material, and the reason is because straw is as much or more expensive than hay around where we live. I'm sure it's not that way out in the Midwest where a lot of grain crops are grown, but the things used to make straw, which are wheat, oats, and rye, aren't grown that much around here anymore, so that drives up the price of straw. And hay works good for us because we can stock one material, hay, and if we have old bales, we can use those as bedding. We don't have to keep a separate supply of straw. Hay can get really cheap around here. In fact, there's a need by the big CAFO dairies for kind of junky hay because as part of their TMR, their total mixed ration, they need a fiber source. So sometimes they'll chop straw and mix that into their ration, or there are several custom haymakers around here that lease out land and they bale really over mature, maybe weedy, stemmy hay that doesn't have a whole lot of nutritional value except for that fiber that the dairies want. And round bales of that you can get for as little as $15 a bale here, and that can make fine bedding material too. Well, I'm on the subject of hay. How are we doing on our hay supply for the winter? Well, if you look at the end of the piles, there's 5 rows here. Going into the winter, we had more hay on hand than we've ever had. It just looks different because the barn's all cleared out, so the hay's stacked wall to wall here instead of having an aisle on one side, which pushed the stack way out. The other day, before I started this row that I'm on here that I've just started into, I did a calculation. We stocked 3 sizes of bales, 4x4 bales, 4x4.5 bales, and 5x5 bales. All have differing feeding durations for our herd. And so I went through all the different types of bales here in one row, and it turned out that one row is a month's feeding. So in this stack still, we've got between 4 and 5 months worth of feed. Plenty. The tractor's drying off. Yeah, it looks a heck of a lot cleaner. Let's see how this came out. Certainly smells good. Nice and juicy. Brisket can be tough to do. It's a tough cut to begin with, and it can dry out, and all sorts of different things can happen on the way to making it. Looks awful good to me.
Oh, this smells so good.
It came out really nice.
Oh, wow. That's good. That's good.
The sous vide can make cooking beef easy because you can cook it for a long time at a low temperature, not dry it out at all, and then finish it the way I did on the smoker.
It's really good. Thumbs up.
Today was a long day. Pressure washing that tractor out in the cold was not the most fun thing, but I'm glad to have it done. Now I can start looking at getting into it and doing mechanical work and moving ahead regardless of the weather. Another day's done.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
We hope you have a great evening, day, week, and we'll see you next time. Do you think we should say some for the kids?
No, they can eat tuna.
They're getting used to tuna.
They are. They live on tuna.